What's up, guys, and welcome back. Happy Monday. What are the best decks that nobody's playing, even though the win rate is through the roof? We're also going to be talking about the best cards at every single cost this season, as well as everything you need to know about locations. We're going to talk about all that today, more on this episode of the Snapchat. And as always, I'm joined by Mr. Alex Coccia. Happy second Monday of us doing this for the Snapchat.
Yeah, I can't believe that it's already been 2 weeks of us on a completely new day, new schedule. But you know what? The same thing still applies, my friend. It is a great time to be a Marvel Snap player because it's always a great time to be a Marvel Snap player. I say that almost every single week, but you know what? We got some absolutely banger cards coming out this month. We've got banger topics on this podcast, and Cozy, I can't wait to talk about it all.
I know, I almost tweeted the other day, like, hot Marvel Snap take. It's fun. I feel like it's like controversial to say that now. It's like, I love this. I still love the game. All right. Well, we are in what many people call the best month of Snap between new cards, the meta right now, a lot of moving pieces. Alex, what do you think about tomorrow or today? They keep switching up the time. Iron Lad comes out, and I watched the episode that we did last week, and it got me like re-hyped up for Iron Lad, man. He's so crazy looking. I still can't even process that he's gonna be a card.
Yeah, honestly, it is a fantastic card, and I really like the design. And it's funny because like I was kind of like hot on it. I was like, yeah, it's a 4 out of 10. But you kind of like really built it. I was like, damn. I think Cozy's onto something. I mean, can a turn 4 Galactus really be that good? Yeah. Oh, wait. Yes, it is. That's going to... I can't wait. I can't wait for the Reddit posts about all the turn 4 Galactus plays. But, I mean, Iron Lad does seem like an incredible, interesting card that, like, it's just a whole new way to approach deck design, too. Like, I had not really given enough credit to the idea that, like, it really does change the way you design a deck because... being able to pull something off the top, it's like, that's crazy.
Dude, I was trying to think about this because I made a, later today, you guys will see an Iron Lad guide later tonight. I was looking through all the cards, right? And then you just nailed it. It really changes deck design. Okay, like Deadpool, all right? Like, then you're trying to destroy Iron Lad and double him back for 14 power? Or like, what about Swarm? And you, like Swarm, right? Like, okay, that doesn't do much. How do you make that work? Well, what if you bounce Iron Lad back and you can somehow discard him with MODOK and then you have 2 0 cost, 7 power cost? Dude, I just feel like the deck design potential is going to open up like massively with him.
It's crazy really what it's going to be capable of. And again, it's one of those cards that looks like it might be a problematic card for future design too, right? Like kind of like that negative problem where it's like, hey, we just designed a cool card, but Iron Lad exists, so this might be bad.
Yeah, exactly. It's wild. And what's cool too is like, Howard doesn't come out till like next week. So this is kind of the RNG phase of Iron Lad. And then we're going to kind of start seeing it kind of more come together. Dude, I listened to Brode's GDC Talk. And I've got to tell you, it was one of the... It was incredible. Have you listened to it?
I have, yes.
It absolutely incredible. Kind of they talked about how they made Snap and like why it took so long for them to make and the different ebbs and flows of making just like a fun card game. And they talked about kind of like the joy of winning is only as great as it is of the pain of losing, and how kind of the retreat system, the cube system, minimizes that whole like losing feeling. You feel like you kind of won by escaping. Like just brilliant kind of mind process behind that. How they got to the cube, what it looked like, kind of the prototypes. Dude, there was so much there. Like, it was a phenomenal listen. If you guys haven't listened to it, I'll put it down in the description below.
It really was a fantastic listen. And I love seeing those behind-the-scenes elements of, like, how a game was designed. And watching them talk about how, they played a ton of different games and took inspiration from a ton of different things. I think that's what makes this game so good, too. It's, like, not just the execution of the game, but, like, how they took ideas and concepts that worked, made it their own, improved on them, reiterated on them, and now we have this game that plays fantastic and it's just fun. Like, it's just fun to play, and it gives the player a lot of agency a lot. Like, I think we talk about the RNG and stuff, but realistically the RNG is kind of under control in Marvel Snap.
Well, guys, you can see down below the subjects we're going to be talking about here on this video. For those that are watching YouTube, there's been confusion every now and then. The topics that Alex is about to announce are going to be on his channel. You can find it in the description. We're 27 episodes in, but I forget that people come in. They're new, right? So you can find those topics. And Alex, what are those topics that we're going to be talking about today?
We're going to be talking about the best archetypes to climb the ladder. We're also going to be talking about the worst cards at every cost. And we're doing an over-the-air recap. We're going to be talking about Luke Cage. We're going to be talking about Orca and the Collector. And it's also worth noting that next week we have a bit of a unique episode in the sense that we're going to be doing a Q&A on my side. So down in the comments section below, Ask us anything. It can be about Marvel Snap. It can be about life. It could be about Cozy's shirts. It can be anything and everything. And we're going to be doing a special Q&A session of the Snapchat on my side next week.
Alex, we're going to go ahead and jump into the topics today. The first one we have is surprisingly high win rate decks. Now, surprising is the key word because here's the if I see another like best deck ever and it's Galactus or Dark Hawk, Sarah Control, we know these decks are good. But there are decks out there that their win rates, by the data, is absolutely insane. And somebody's playing these decks because there's a good amount of plays with the decks. We can see how many times it's been played, but not the general public. So today we're going to bring up some decks, talk about the win percentage, how it's doing with cube gain, and what is in the deck that, you might as well play because people aren't going to suspect you playing it because they're not vastly used, Alex. And I've got about 3. Do you want to go and kick us off with the first one?
Sure. The first one I want to talk about, honestly, is Doomwave. I'm so surprised that the play rate of Doomwave isn't higher. This is a surprisingly good deck in the sense that like it has so many natural counters to it. I'm even seeing variations of Doomwave that are running Enchantress as well because of the prevalence of Darkhawk and the Devil Dinosaur. One thing I will say is that Doomwave is an absolutely fantastic list because simply like it's relatively affordable considering that it's basically pool 3 cards. And the other side about it is like you just have amazing cards in it. You have the Wave turn 5, and then you have the She-Hulk and +1, She-Hulk +1. And you're talking about Arrow, Magneto, Doctor Doom. Like these are amazing cards, and that soft Sandman effect of Wave makes Arrow incredibly effective. So this is one of those decks that like honestly, if you're trying to get to Infinite and like you don't have a complete or a ton of tokens to spend on other cards in Series 4 and 5, then I feel like this is a surprisingly amazing deck that's relatively inexpensive that can honestly get you there.
Yeah, there's a couple things in here too that like people don't realize in it. So you have cards like Iceman, which obviously messes up the curve. Scorpion can obviously handle those Cerebro decks and or mess up Iron Man and those 0-cost cards with good abilities. But then you have things like even Mr. Fantastic can win you games by putting 2 power on like Altar of Death, right? You have White Queen for getting intel, Shang-Chi for the countering. So like outside just like good stat cards, you just have a lot of cards that cover a wide variety of bases in Doomwave. So I like the pick. And also Alex, like Magneto is the one being slotted in there. That last spot is typically kind of slotted with the new, like what's handling the meta and like Darkhawk, Miles Morales. We're seeing a lot of these 4-cost cards kind of appear. And so Magneto's like that new answer for that to kind of screw them up. Even though we've known he's a good card, he's kind of shining once again.
I like that Magneto tech. Like traditionally, I'd often use Chavez to try and increase the opportunity to get waved by 5. But yeah, you're right. Magneto right now completely destroys the meta especially with like that like stature discard style gameplay where you do have the Miles Morales going down relatively often. And it's pretty crazy how effective Magneto can be of just completely dismantling your opponent's game plan. And I love the idea that you can honestly turn 6. It's often enough just to She-Hulk and Shang-Chi. Like seriously, like She-Hulk, Shang-Chi is enough to win like a vast majority of games.
Have you noticed too, I feel like the good 6-cost cards, let's say Doctor Doom was in this boat for a while. When there's like 3 that are prevalent right now, the other ones shine even more, right? So like I would say Doctor Doom is like the most anticipated, maybe some She-Hulk action. That's where Magneto shines, right? Because you're expecting the Doctor Doom, then you get the 12 power that drags, right? Whereas it used to be you're expecting X and then Doctor Doom came out. So like that's where we see these like ebbs and flows of the meta, which is kind of a cool aspect. Now, Alex, my deck is one that I get commented a lot. A lot of people got Thanos when he was reigning king with Lockjaw. A good amount, and obviously you don't need to have remorse because it's a big bad. You're gonna always have that value of what you paid for it, I guess. But people don't know where to use him. Now, there's a lot of good kind of Thanos decks floating around, but it was cool to see one that I thought had pretty damn good stats, and that is going to be a Thanos Zoo list. Now, it's not going to... This list does have a lot of different ways that you can play it, a lot of cards you can slot in, different 1-cost cards, but this list in particular has a 57.3% win rate. This is between rank 60 and 99. We leave out Infinite just because it can get a little wacky once you get past Infinite. And there's about 1,000 games played in this current patch, right, which is fairly recent. And the deck's going to consist of Ant-Man, Goose, Armor, Mr. Fantastic, Cosmo, Kazar, Blue Marvel, so your Zoo basic kind of build there. Devil Dino, Professor X, Claw, Spectrum, and Thanos. So we've seen Spectrum, we've seen Thanos because of Thanos having 2 ongoing cards for Spectrum to boost. But man, it's cool to see this deck doing well, even with Enchantress just absolutely everywhere. And I think why it does well, Alex, is there's so many ongoing cards here, right? Like Enchantress can only do so many. Have you experimented with this deck? I played it maybe a few months back when it was that ongoing shell, but man, I'm surprised.
I have, honestly. I've been experimenting with this deck quite a bit, and I actually love it for the sake that, like, it's the ultimate cube thief in Claw. Like, Claw is the X factor in this list that, like, I catch people by surprise with Claw all the time. And, like, even when you have something like Negative Zone and you drop Claw, it's, like, effectively 9 power on the other side, right? Like, I love Claw, and anytime I get a reason to play Claw, I'm honestly excited.
So one thing that I want to mention that I don't see brought up enough is a cheeky combo that I'd probably throw into this deck, and that's going to be with Wave. Now, obviously, we know Wave does so many great things on turn 5, but one thing she does that I think is just insanely underrated is with Goose. So if you play Wave on turn 5, or really mainly that because it's the last turn, right? You make every card 4 cost, right? For the most part, unless there's obviously Zabu Sarah stuff going on. But if there's not, it makes it to where they can't play in that Goose lane. You literally lock that lane down completely on the last turn of the game. Now, there are a lot of cards in this meta that kind of float through there. I actually think Goose has gone down in value lately just because of all the Zabus and Stature and Miles. But that interaction is really solid. And again, ongoing is incredibly powerful. Super Scroll's kind of dipping out a little bit. I would say, obviously, this guy right here has that dex number. But the stats don't lie, man. That deck's performing pretty well, and I would think a good amount of people don't know what to expect when you're playing it.
I love what your assessment of Goose, by the way. Like, I think that I want to go back to that for a second because Goose was without question one of my favorite cards in the most recent meta, but Zabu is literally everywhere right now. Like, Zabu is probably it's like one of the most impactful meta cards still to this day, despite the nerf, which actually feels like it's a buff now. Like, it's been wild how good Zabu has been. And it does take a little bit off Goose because, like, every 4-cost card slides under Goose now, right? So I love your assessment.
Yeah, Goose has the uses, right? Like Galactus and 6-cost cards, but, like, the Shang-Chi and Enchantress counter doesn't really protect it anymore. They're going to sneak in there a good amount of the time. So, yeah, very interesting to see. But it's nice to, I guess, keep the card in check a little bit as well. So Thanos Zoo, really strong deck. But Alex, hit me with another kind of underrated deck with a surprisingly high win rate.
All right, so the one I'm going to here is one that I feel like I talk about on a relatively frequent basis, but it's Silver Surfer, and I feel like it's wild that I never see Silver Surfer on the ladder. I feel like I'm the only one playing it, and my win rate is amazing with it because, like, quite frankly, it has the answers. Now, the version of Silver Surfer that I'm currently running is Nova Goose with Jeff. I'm putting Jeff in pretty much everything, guys. I'm sorry. I got Brood, Mr. Fantastic, Silver Surfer themselves. And then you got the Storm Juggernaut combination, which, I mean, I love locking down that lane. And if you whiff on that play, then you get to add in that Jeff there. Killmonger to take out all those Nebulas. Polaris to help counter the Galactuses, which of course Juggernaut can do as well. You got the Maximus Sarah combination. There is so much to love here, and we also have the tech of Rogue and Cosmo, which is extremely valuable as well. Rogue completely destroys like the Devil Dino and the Darkhawk style lists, and of course Cosmo is another card that'll make every Galactus player cry. I love Sarah Surfer. I can't get enough of it, Cozy, and I'm surprised I don't see more of it.
I think why it's so solid is because Sarah Control, which we'll talk about later, but Sarah Control is great to obviously counter so much. Surfer has counters everywhere. You have, like you said, Killmonger for the 1 cost. Rogue is being slotted in now because Darkhawk is played virtually everywhere. And then you have Cosmo for the on reveals, and then you have Storm for the control. So you have ways to just completely shut down people and boost those up later. So, like, Rogue obviously has terrible stat lines, but then you can go and boost up with Surfer. So I love the flexibility that Surfer has. And I don't know if it's ever going to go anywhere because of that. Like, there's so many 3-cost cards to slot in depending on, like, what's happening with the meta. And it's always a dependable deck.
It feels like Surfer is slowly becoming more of a control archetype. Like, really, and that's where it's starting to shine. Like, the idea of having these control-based elements that really give you a chance to take Silver Surfer to the next level. Because when you have answers, like, I've even played Silver Surfer where I'm putting Scarlet Witch in. Like, I'll do that. I'll put Rhino in. I don't care if there's like a feature location that I'm not into and I want to play Surfer, Rhino.
Yep.
Sure, I'm putting Rhino in. And like it provides you with that flexibility. Now Rhino's not a sexy card, let's be honest, but it's a 3 cost.
It's a more dependable Cerebro at times, right? Like Rhino and C3, let's say. But like this one, you don't have to worry about, the negative stuff happening or even boosted stuff happening. So yeah, very solid. Like the list. Now, again, I told you I'd have some surprising picks, man. So we had Thanos Zoo. No one's really playing Thanos Zoo at the moment. This other one, I was just taken back. It's crazy to see how well it's doing. Now, it doesn't have, the absolute craziest win rate you've ever seen in your entire life. But at 55%, we've got On Reveal. Now, look at this list, and I'll read it out for the audio listeners. It's Sunspot, Iceman, Scorpion, Ironheart, Wolfsbane Storm, Wong, White Tiger, Gamora, Doctor Doom, Odin, and Chavez. I mean, this looks right out of a bot. But this thing has 4,000 games played. 55%, which for 4,000 games is phenomenal. And it's at a 0.41 cube rate as well. Dude, the color me surprised. This is pretty damn good.
If you were to show me this deck and tell me A, that it wasn't a bot, and B, that it had a very, very good win rate, I would be surprised. Like this Gamora splash is what's taken me by surprise. Because like you got the Wong, White Tiger, Ironheart, and that's classic, like, first month of Marvel Snap guide territory there. Like I'm going back in time right now,
right?
With like the YouTube videos. But this is just like, it's really a good cards list, but with not good cards. Like it literally has Ironheart, Gamora, which you would not account for, but win rate does surprise me, Cozy.
You're missing, again, name of the segment, right? Like you're missing She-Hulk. You're missing these good cards in here that are like obvious staples. We're about to talk about the best cards at every cost, and this doesn't really have any of them. Doctor Doom is obviously phenomenal. But what I think is so dependable about it is you have Sunspot, Iceman, and Scorpion, just like great, first few turn cards. And then Ironheart is, I think, often slept on, especially if you follow that up with Odin and or you're able to pull off a Wong. Cosmos being played at a bit less. Still everywhere. But again, just like the ongoing with Enchantress, you can't stop everything, right? So that win rate blew me away. And I think on reveal, it comes off as oh, Cosmo, it's over, right? But you could do that with every deck in the game, right? I mean, like, look at Galactus. But on reveal, it just doesn't get talked about a lot. And I think with Arrow going down a bit, things like Black Panther, who's now pool 3, they're good. They're viable.
Yeah, and honestly, the prevalence of Cosmo's gone down. I'm not seeing Cosmo nearly as frequently as I used to. And so, like, I think that an unchecked Wong sitting there is one of the most terrifying things in Marvel Snap still. Like, we used to talk about how Wong was one of the best cards in the game, honestly. And then, like, as we got more tools and more cards came out, like, Wong kind of slipped down. Like, it's not on our top 10 list. It's not on our... I'm not going to talk about Wong. You're probably not going to talk about Wong. We talk about the best cards. But, like, an unchecked Wong sitting there in a lane, you're like, no, I'm out. Peace.
Oh yeah, it's like almost never worth the cube risk whenever you see a Wong on 5 and you're like, I have nothing. Like I might have Doctor Doom here, but like what are they gonna do? I don't know. This could be some hazmat Luke Cage combo that I don't even know they had in the deck. So he has like very much a scary presence around him, if you will. So yeah, that deck, man, absolutely terrifying. Not really, but it's kind of crazy what that deck has for its win rate. Anything else? Any other decks?
Yeah, I'll throw one more at you. And this one's more of like a fun one that just got buffed from Luke Cage going to a 2/2, and that's C2, Cerebro 2. I mean, that's what everyone wanted to play, right? When Luke Cage got buffed up, Cerebro 2 was like on the minds of pretty much everybody. And I'm playing like Iceman, Nightcrawler, Goose, of course. Naturally, you got your Hazmat Luke Cage. Mr. Sinister, which is the only card that is probably only in this deck alone. Like, Mr. Sinister is basically deleted from the game with the exception of the occasional Patriot player and, of course, C2. The version of C2 that I've been playing, I've been actually splashing in Green Goblin because Green Goblin gives me that, like, counteract play against the Galactus, which, like, in my list, I only really have Goose and Storm that do that. And then, obviously, you got your Cerebro, Mystique, Brood, and Blue Marvel. I love your list that you're showing here as well with the Invisible Woman, man. I never get sick of playing Invisible Woman. Talk to me about it, Cozy.
Yeah, so this is what I love about Invisible Woman. I'll say this. Hazmat, Luke Cage just got buffed up, and people are trying Hazmat. Hazmat's kind of a trap in C2, because if you don't pull Luke Cage, like, you have a card you can't play. Like, it's not going to be that good. However, what I like about Invisible Woman If you do want to do the hazmat, it's crazy. You can hide it. I think Invisible Woman with Mr. Sinister hidden behind her is so crazy, or Brode for that matter, in C2, because they're seeing one card, maybe two. And they probably know you're playing C2. It's fairly obvious with a couple of signs. But then when 3 cards come out of that on the last turn, they're not ready. And it's kind of like Silver Surfer. You don't want to pack C2 with only cards with 2 power. That's why I do love the little splash of, like you said, Green Goblin. Hobgoblin works in there as well. Just things to push negative power, or, Iron Man. These things to help your side of the board. Another little cheeky bro combo I like, man, is Yellow Jacket. Yellow Jacket now with Luke Cage is so spicy because you can play him on any turn if Luke is out there, or you just get a free play into an empty lane. There's no con to that. I actually am starting to really like Yellow Jacket in C2.
That's crazy to hear. I feel like Yellow Jacket was one of those cards that like pretty much no one plays. Like you see some Yellow Jacket in Galactus-based lists, right? But other than that, like that is a card that's pretty much invisible in the meta, right? And to hear that you're actually playing it in C2, it makes perfect sense. I had not originally considered it, but like I like that a lot, honestly, Cozy.
It's a little on the cheeky side. Like, is it perfect? No, but I do think that you can, since you can play it in any lane, and then you can also play it with Luke Cage like reliably. It doesn't feel quite like Hazmat, right? Like Hazmat's obviously going to affect the entire board, whereas Yellow Jacket, it's a little bit of a safer play. So Alex, I'm going to end it. We're going to talk about one more. Not really that much. I just feel like this had a quick heyday, maybe in March, and then it kind of died down, and people stopped playing it. And probably even more so after the Lockjaw nerf. Jane Jaw is sitting at almost 60%. Now, 60% is like matching Shuri numbers back in the day. 60% is a very high win rate. It's insane, especially for the amount of games that have been played under it. Jane Jaw is so successful at the moment, and we're seeing Giganta. We're seeing these cards kind of come back that were once forgotten. We had them as underrated card, Alex, as you know. And I feel like Jane Jaw is doing so well because the deck list has been refined almost to perfection. And this list doesn't even have Jeff, who I think obviously would fit in it. I don't need to put Jeff in every list. Man, you've got a lot of threats in here that continue to have a presence, especially with Thor and Dracula, and then obviously just like the big cards.
Jane Jaw is actually a fantastic list. I really like it. I've been a huge believer of Jane Foster. It's been one of those cards that I feel like is genuinely being slept on. Even like the Jane negative base lists, I think are surprisingly good too. But like negative as a whole feels a little off right now, but the Jane ones feel like they have explosive potential when you consider like Darkhawk, Arnhem Zola, and like all the zeros that you can pull. Like it's actually crazy. Like if you see negative and then someone plays Jane Foster, you need to just leave. Like you do not stay in that game. If you stay in the game, you chose violence and violence against your own cubes.
I feel like, do you think it's because of the interaction with Chavez? Because Jubilee now doesn't pull Chavez, which people were sad about that. I think that's a good thing with Jane Jaw, right? Because with this list, you can much rather pull some of these other cards. Now, obviously, Wasp, Sunspot, there's some other cons to it. But you're giving yourself the option to have a bit more reliable pulls, especially if you know what's in your hand. It gives you a bit more reliability, does it not?
It's an interesting question because I kind of lean towards the idea of like liking the traditional Jubilee Chavez interaction. But at the same time, I totally understand what you're saying. And I think more testing will indicate whether or not like the nerf, or the change, I should say, to America Chavez does impact Jubilee negatively or positively. But man, I don't have an answer.
We're finding these RNG decks being a bit more refined, way more dependable, and we can see that just by the stats, right? The number of games played and how well it's doing. So those are going to be underrated decks. Hopefully those are ones maybe you aren't playing, you didn't know. Go out there and test them in the wild while you got a couple weeks. And before everyone else plays them who listens to the podcast here, Alex, we're going to go ahead and go to our next subject, man. And that's going to be the best cards at every cost. Now, I'm about to get to play a lot of Snap. Finally, I'm going to be going to New York next week, which I'm thrilled about. I'll be traveling, and I don't know about you, but I cannot wait to just like sit on the plane and play a little bit of Snap. Do you go to New York often, yeah?
But I used to actually have one of my best friends used to live in New York. We paid an absolute fortune. And this was at the time, too. I can only imagine how much more it is now. We paid a fortune for a literal closet that someone just threw a bed in. It's like, it was literally a walk-in closet. That was our room, and we shared the room.
I'm in San Diego, so my studio is pretty much a closet. So I feel that. You call me crazy, but I actually think the hot dogs are tremendous. The street dogs,
Like the papaya dog?
just the dogs on the side of the street, the vendor dogs in New York, man. I think they're tremendous.
Oh, the street meat.
The street
Man.
meat.
No, you're wrong. I'm sorry. Try it.
I don't like street meat. I don't like that term.
At the you don't like the street meat term?
Street meat? It gives me
I don't want to ask questions about that. We got to keep this monetized, so let's not go there, Cozy.
Do you like the hot dogs? Do you like street meat?
Okay, so I've had papaya dog in New York, and I thought that was pretty cool. Papaya dog is like a really cheap like dog place where you go, you pay $1 or $1.25 or whatever it is, and then you get a hot dog. And I mean, it's literally like the worst hot dog imaginable, but it's a hot dog and it costs you $1. But like the street meat. Okay, I remember. So we were at the New York tournament, the invitational kind of New York tournament that I was in. Was in February, or whatever it was. And it was like 3 a.m. We were walking through the streets, and then like, long story short, I ended up getting a hot dog, like a street meat hot dog. First of all, this guy clearly knew I was not from around there. I couldn't believe someone was like cooking a hot dog at 3 a.m.
What did you call it, street meat? Because that's probably why. I mean,
I don't know. But anyways, I went there and I was like, hey, like I'll get a hot dog or whatever, Polish sausage, whatever he called it on the sign. He dipped it in water. He handed it to me. He was like, that'll be $13. And in my head, I'm like $20 Canadian. Like, what just happened here?
it was like you're in a foreign country and they're like, we got to take advantage of this guy. We know he's not from around here.
Do I look Canadian or something?
Yeah,
I don't
they're
know.
like, yeah, we can get more out of this guy for the hot dog. This is the ultimate debate question. I've been asked this before and it like stopped me in my tracks for a second. Is a hot dog a sandwich?
Why would anyone ask that?
Well,
It's
by
obviously a
definition,
sandwich.
no, don't, Alex. I can't find another co-host for this show. You think it's a sandwich?
Well, yeah, it's meat between 2 buns.
The sacred
Well, actually,
union between a bun and a hot dog. I get it. The definition of a sandwich is 2 breads with meat in between. But Alex, do we call taco? Are we going crazy? We're going to call tacos as well?
Tacos are sandwiches.
Oh my God. I've lost you.
No, you've lost yourself, sir.
You believe in your full heart that a hot dog is a sandwich?
No, I wouldn't say my whole heart, but like if your major kind of problem with it is that like it's one piece of bread that you have a meat in the middle, you can just separate the piece of bread so it's 2 pieces of bread and just stack them together. It becomes a sandwich again.
A hot dog is a culinary masterpiece, good sir. To confine it to being a sandwich is honestly, it's disrespectful.
Is a hamburger a sandwich?
No.
No, it's not. See, now you're cracked because a hamburger is a hamburger because a sandwich has like lunch meats in it.
But it has its own identity. You don't need to call it. If we were going to go on a hot, steamy date and I was like, hey, let's go on a picnic. I'll bring some sandwiches. And you're like, oh, I love sandwiches. Love them. We go to the date and I whip out a couple hot dogs. Not whip out a hot dog, but a couple of hot dogs that I've made that are sandwiches.
Yeah, we got to stay monetized here, Cozy. Settle down.
What would your reaction? Would you be like, oh, I'm so glad you brought some sandwiches? Or would you be a sane, normal person who said, hi, those are hot dogs?
I would say, sir, do you have any mayo for this sandwich?
You put mayos on hot dog? We need to move forward before I get lose myself here. Okay, well, is a hot dog a sandwich? That's the ultimate. It's as old as time. This has been debated since the caveman days, Alex. So we're gonna get the answer from our viewers. Okay, we have best cards at every single cost. We've done favorite cards at cost, but we're gonna talk about this season the best cards at every single cost right now this season in Snap. And I actually think it's a bit tougher this season than typical. I think usually we have some really easy ones, easy outliers. So we're gonna go 3, 2, 1. Name them at the same time so we don't cheat. And we're going to just start with the 1 cost, which should be relatively easy. You ready to go?
Yeah.
All right, here we go. 1 cost. 3, 2, 1. Nebula.
Kitty pride.
Kitty. You know what? That's.
I'm cheating. I know. I'm cheating.
I feel like it's so funny she's still here. Like, I get boosters from Kitty, and I'm like, why? We're only looking at a couple more weeks without Kitty. I do think, however, even though Nebula is in a really good spot, which love Dan Hip, but this Nebula, I feel like it has a goatee. I can't unsee it once you see it right here.
Beard? I like the beard.
I
thought that was a beard.
It has to be a beard, right? Nebula really good, but I think Kitty is going to single-handedly shut this card down. So I'm thinking that you can play it on the Nebula lane, take it back, play back on the Nebula lane. You're not committing a lot of cost there. So I think those are going to be some of the most competitive, with Sunspot having his own place with like She-Hulk and the things that he does. And I think that's kind of cool because like Nebula and Storm is still going to be absolutely like the like shutdown combo.
Nebula is incredible. It's an incredible card, and I love playing Nebula in control lists because for the same reason why we talked about when the card was announced. Like you have Storm, it's just sitting there, it's just procking upward. Proc X just procs upward, right? An extra 2 power. That's an extra 2 power. Even if you basically get the free proc on turn 6 after a Proc X, like that counts. That counts, and that sets it above. Because remember, 1-3, like think about how hard Hawkeye has to work to get to 1-3, right?
Hawkeye's
So,
working
like,
his ass off for that, yeah.
Yeah, so like it is a great card, and if I'm not going to cheat and pick a card you can actually play, I think Iceman deserves some talk here, especially with all the Hitmonkey lists going on, which are still very strong lists. Like Iceman just. It's kind of funny how people forgot that we all hate Iceman. Like this card is still extremely disruptive.
Don't forget the hate for Ice. I agree. Yeah, he's so solid. He feels like a necessary. We say this all the time, like necessary evil though. Like when Sandman was big and stuff. Like I just love him for screwing up those kind of greedy high cost decks. So yeah, definitely like honorable mention there. 2 cost, 3, 2, 1. You're gonna say Jeff.
Jeff. Yes. Why'd you do that?
I knew
you
it,
ruined
man.
my surprise, Cozy.
Jeff is in a really good spot. I think Hitmonkey is probably my current favorite at the moment, just with like his consistency. But yeah, it's so funny. I saw a couple like when he came out, a couple like I don't think Jeff's gonna be that good. It's a Nightcrawler that costs 1 more that just does so much more, and I think really, Alex, the ability to you can't stop it. That ability alone is what's making it so crazy. Outside of it just being able to move and enable miles and all those things.
I had this thought that it feels like straight up power creep over Nightcrawler. It's not because they're different costs, but like, why play Nightcrawler when you can play Jeff?
I'm glad they both exist. People are playing both. It's in the best deck in the game right now for both. They do.
I feel like they're playing them one or the other. Like if you don't have Jeff, you're playing Nightcrawler. I don't think you're playing both.
You can have. I've seen plenty of lists out there with both of them because you can. The cool thing is you have now 2 cards to rely on for miles outside of obviously having players pull a card. But also it just can't be undermined. Getting these cards to hard to reach locations, but then also having a lane full and then just moving it and putting another, like that's always there. I think they have their different uses, but am I going to say it's not power creep? Yeah, I think it is a little bit, obviously, yeah.
What if Nightcrawler could move twice? Like what if Nightcrawler was changed just a little bit? Just a little bit.
I like that. That'd be probably too good, but I like it because the problem with movement, it's just so tricky, man, with like Kraven and stuff. But yeah, I do agree. It would be super cool. You know what's crazy that I didn't know? I tried to make this wild Kraven buff deck with Jeff and Nightcrawler and Beast. So like, I'm like, oh my God, this is genius. I'm going to just like be just moving these things like crazy. If you bounce back Nightcrawler, Beast and his interactions, dude. So with Nebula, right? Really cool. If you bounce back Nebula, the next time you play her, if they don't play a card there, you get the instant +2. So it's actually not the first time you play. Very interesting, right? When you bounce back Nightcrawler after moving him, he's done. He can't move again. He's done. He doesn't work again. For 3 cost cards, I think this is a bit tougher here. 3, 2, 1, Mystique.
Wave.
Oh, those are both so good. And then Storm too, right? Like there's so many good 3 cost. Oh, Wave or Mystique? I feel like Mystique is why Rocks and Hawks is so insanely crazy. But then Wave does so much at the same time. Both are timeless. Like both are going to be good for a long time. Oh man, do I give it to Wave? I think I'd give it to Wave. But man, I like Mystique a lot too. And I like that we had different choices.
It's funny that you're saying that because I'm thinking, man, I think Mystique might be better than Wave. Because I mean, Mystique's like the ultimate combo card. Like Mystique is the card that just really will never go out of style. And it's only going to get better as new cards get released that have ongoing effects that it can copy, right? I mean, Wave feels extremely meta relevant right now. It's still crazy that Wave has dodged like nerfs. It really is crazy to think that it has dodged nerfs. Like we've talked about Wave being a potentially problematic card like for months.
November,
but
yeah.
I feel like it is an interesting spot, isn't it? I think that Wave is just forever always on the cusp of being just a little too impactful.
So I feel like Iron Lad is going to reintroduce Mystique as the dominant because again, it's like you're going to then be able to start copying. You could have 3 Iron Men on the field. There's just some crazy interactions that are going to happen with that. And I believe she'll be able to copy Iron Lad because he'll have that ongoing, right? It's always going to copy that last card. Let's go to 4 cost, Alex. And at 4 cost, we got 3, 2, 1, Dracula.
Oh!
No crap, huh? Out of
Great
all of
minds
these,
think alike.
out of all these, even over Darkhawk.
Yeah.
I agree. I think Dracula, his presence, what he does, the decks he works in, and the pure, like, dump him in a lane and forget it, truly is unmatched.
Here's the thing. Dracula, what do you use to counter him? Magneto. That's pretty much the only card that I can think of that has some sort of impact on Dracula.
Maximus.
Darkhawk.
Yeah.
Darkhawk, you need Maximus too, yeah. Darkhawk, you need like you have a massive list of potential counters. Dracula can get Shang-Chi'd, Enchantress, Rogue, all these different things in Darkhawk. Dracula's just like, come on, Rogue, come at me. What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do, Rogue?
Yeah, I think he is the clear winner on a pretty competitive list, right? Shang-Chi, there's some really good cards. Miles is rising. Enchantress is a 4/6 now. 5 cost, Alex. One of the tougher ones. But also not. I think we're going to say the same probably. And then let's pivot if we do. Okay. 3, 2, 1. Sarah.
Sarah.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, that one, like, we don't even need to have this crazy conversation. Sarah is clearly the best 5 cost just because of what she does. She's timeless. Who would be your number 2?
My number 2, I mean, I want to say Iron Man. I want to say Iron Man because like Iron Man is just so damn good. But at the same time, like, Devil Dinosaur, can we really not? I can't talk about Devil Dinosaur again.
It's
like
been a while,
occurrence.
dude. You know, you've been on like the surfer train lately. You kind of forgot about your pet over here.
Because like, listen, I play Cosmo and then I play Devil Dinosaur and I'm happy. I'm happy. I don't care about Enchantress anymore.
And I think the gap is pretty big. Like, those are there for sure. Pro X is getting better, but you need some complement cards. But outside of that, all these other ones are like good. They're good cards. They're really good cards, but are they the best? I think it's really those kind of core ones. And lastly, 6 cost, Alex. This will be probably no contest too. We'll have to see. We're going to be doing the worst on your side. 3, 2, 1. She-Hulk. Dude, that's the last 3 we just lined up there. Holy
this
crap.
was not prepared. We actually keep these secret from each other just so like
I'm actually
we have
shocked.
like actual genuine reactions and stuff.
Holy crap. Yeah, I thought you were maybe going to say Doom. I thought potentially that was going to come out. And that's obviously what I was in between was Doom and She-Hulk. But I was just thinking about overall versatility. I think it's got to go to She-Hulk. The sheer fact that you could play her for free or for 1 cost or on turn 4 is what does it for me.
She-Hulk for me is also part of the reason why Wave is so powerful. Like, if you think about Wave She-Hulk, I think they're forever tied together. If She-Hulk gets nerfed even more, then Wave, I think, as a value card goes down. If Wave gets nerfed to some sort of thing where She-Hulk is no longer compatible with it, then I think She-Hulk loses value as well.
Yeah.
You're right. She-Hulk turn 4 is fantastic. Just the overall, like, that clean curve, but you don't usually play it like that, do you? It's that turn 6 kind of like, I have it for free, or I moon girled it and I skipped turns and now I have multiple She-Hulks.
Yeah, it's insane. It really, the amount of power you can pump out is truly crazy. We're also seeing kind of post-credits decks come back where you can skip on a turn 6, and, you know, it's a little risky with Limbo and having that Storm, but yeah, absolutely crazy. Now, this is not one of the best 6 costs, but dude, I just had to show you. I like to show the variants off here on the Snapchat. Dude, I had to show you what might be my best split that I've had in a long time. Check out this Onslaught.
Ooh, that's beautiful. Gold, green. That's beautiful.
I don't even like the green typically on cards, but with the Onslaught, I got this last night and I was like, oh my God, it's perfect. It's perfect.
I love the purple border too, and then like he has that green lightning coming out of his hand. It's perfect. This is like a perfect card, Cozy.
I like it more than if it had Kirby's too. So like it's done. I'm not upgrading it again. I'm leaving this forever. Now, lastly, we have one more subject, and it's going to be about locations, which we don't talk about pretty much ever on the Snapchat, but it's on every game of Snap. Every single one has locations, and I feel like people have different opinions about locations. So I'm going to go ahead and bring up a location. And we're going to go ahead and I just want you to say one word that comes to mind. Kind of a love-or-hate situation. And then we'll briefly talk about it. I got a nice little list here of kind of some, I don't know if they're controversial, but they definitely have, you know, I'm not going to throw Subterranea at you. I think that one's kind of obvious, right? All right, here we go. Nexus.
Fun.
Okay, I like it. I was going to say Quake. And that's mainly because of the
Quake. I mean, that's a good point. That's a good point. Quake is pretty fun, man.
As of filming this, the Quake was Nexus was the hot location, and I just decimated with Quake. Just decimated. And I love that that's her main use in Snap. Like, that's kind of it. Like, she's great for hot locations. Next location, Attillion.
Feces.
I was going to say the worst. Yeah. Worst location. Might be, it's right up there with Dream Dimension for me. I don't know about you guys listening, but I think it's got to be Dream Dimension, Attillion. Those might be my least favorite in the game.
Mindscape sucks too.
I don't mind it. I don't mind it because like it's like I can
Well done.
plan
You have that
around
plan.
it, or I can retreat or whatever. Dude, Attillion, it's like you're like, oh my god, I got my combo. Okay, great. And then it's gone. And then you get the reshuffle and it's terrible. It's
Garbage.
absolutely horrible. Yeah, it's garbage.
Yeah, because someone just played a turn 3 rock slide on you and you just drew 2 rocks. Yeah.
Next location, Warrior Falls.
Interesting. Stressful.
Stressful. I like that. That was going to be mine. Stressful. I love the mind games of playing the same power cards there too, and then they can all stack together, and you try to just put your Zabu. That's definitely one that I would put on the love list. Would you say love?
I love it because I play a lot of Polaris and I drag those Zabus over and I go boom. I think it's a fascinating location from a standpoint of like, do you play too early into it? Like if I play a Polaris and I drag over a Nebula, a Sunspot, and I knock it out, that feels really good. But like, on turn 6, right? It's like, do I leave Polaris? Like, or do I play another card and just like destroy my Polaris anyway? Like how do they respond? It's a very difficult location to play around when you're the one winning it. Like if you just leave it and they play a bigger card, then like you just lose the location.
That's me with Rickety Bridge. I'm always like, do I just leave it alone? But do they get the free lane if they throw in a 1 cost? Yeah, like I always feel that way. That one's stressful as well. All right, next location, Mojo World.
Weird because like I never quite know how to deal with it because like Mojo World's really interesting from a standpoint that like you want to put like a Zabu there or something, like some small card that kind of like it'll do its job, it'll kind of give you that tick with Mojo. But when like they start contesting it as well, and you know like hey, we're going 4 wide here, it's gonna like we need power here too now because like when they both fill, then it just becomes a straight up regular location, right?
And then but then at the same time you don't want to put too much power there because then you could also just like sweep it by 100.
Exactly.
And then you don't want to put 1 cost there because they can kill Monger it. Dude, it's got to be one of the biggest mind game It might be one of my favorite locations because of that. Like, it's tough. It's a tough decision location.
It is. It's not tough when you're playing Living Tribunal, though. You got to win it.
Yep, 100%. Next location, Bar Sinister.
Fun, wild chaos.
Movement cards is my, dude. I love movement cards on that. Like Jeff lately, being in all the decks, you just throw Jeff in there and it's just freaking a shark. It's baby shark party all the time. Like it's so wild, man, with Bar Sinister. That's an easy love for me. Easy love. Next location, Lamentis 1. Start with love or hate.
Hate.
Love. I'm a lover.
How do you love Lamentis? That is the hottest take. I almost want to leave.
Yeah, you put mayo on hot dogs. That's my matching take, dude. I feel like it's a little bit of mind games, and you have to work with what you got. Typically, I mean, if you like combo decks, it's terrible. I don't even play a lot of destroy decks. I just think it's super interesting. You're like, all right, I have a Sentinel. I know I have consistent cards, or I have a Moon Girl. I know I can outpace them. I have XYZ. I have a Thor. That's where I like it. I think that there's enough cards out there to make it a fun location.
The highest percentage play of Lamentis is just snap as soon as you see it and the other person leaves.
Absolutely. Even if your hand's garbage, but then then they stay and you're like, oh damn, I got nothing. Like I have a Darkhawk and they have nothing in their deck. Like, yeah, that's I was surprised that you hate it so much.
It's like we're playing a card game, you build a deck, and it's just like, no, your deck doesn't exist anymore. Here's garbage.
The Raft.
The Raft? Wow, I didn't expect you to bring up the Raft. I'm gonna say conflicted is my word.
I like that word. I'm gonna say I lose. Like I don't ever win the Raft, I feel like. I usually try to prioritize it. My decks are typically a little bit on the greedy side, on like more high cost. Do you find yourself winning or losing the Raft?
I find I win it very often. I tend to have decks that curve a little more consistently. Like
Okay.
I'm one of those guys. I like to build very like steady playing decks. Like, I like playing on tempo, and so I often have a turn 1, turn 2, turn 3 where I'm able to fill those locations. And naturally, I don't have Brood or Mr. Sinister or anything like that.
Yeah.
But my luck is honestly, it's like Giganto left is usually what I get, or like Arnim Zola, which I'm like, I know you're excited for Arnim Zola, but like, what do I do with Arnim Zola in a surfer deck?
Null or something. Yeah, like, yeah, it's just something you just can't use anything with. Here's another one for you. How about Fisk Tower?
I love it. I love Fist Tower because I am a Polaris enjoyer. Cozy, how many times am I going to bring up Polaris in the last 2 weeks? I feel like it's like we just call this like the Polaris chat because it's all I've talked about for 2 weeks.
So that's your one word is probably Polaris. Mine would be that's the sound I'm going to make. That's my best gunshot that they do there. Yeah, you know, I tried. But dude, it scares. I swear it scares me every time. Like I'm going to move Jeff to the left and Fist Towers to the right. And it's like, I'm like, God, I'm moving Jeff left. Like just chill.
I love that sound effect.
Chill,
like when you hover over, it's like, hey, yeah, we were watching.
You're like, just chill. Yeah, but I would say Fisk Tower. I like it. I think Fist Tower is definitely a fun one that there's enough cards out there that can take advantage. TVA.
Hate it. I'm so sick of TVA.
You're sick of TVA. You see it all the time.
I'm sick of TVA. You know what? Like I feel like every time I'm at like rank 98 and I'm on a win streak, I get some friggin' TVA game and they snap. And I'm like, I can do it. I got them. And then they drop Zabu on turn 2 and my whole life flashes before my eyes.
I never know with TVA, do I stick with it or not, especially with the snapping moment. Now, if they played a card first, let's say Lizard, and TVA shows up, I'm out, dude. I'm like, hey, enjoy. Even Iceman. I'm like, you got 2, I'm out. I'm completely done. I usually stick it out though. If they don't snap, I'm like, yeah, let's gamble. Let's see what happens.
Yeah, it's the snapping part that really makes TVA stressful. Like I've had more than one 8-cube TVA game. It's crazy to think, but like when you have Mr. Fantastic too, which is in the vast majority of my list, like Mr. Fantastic's like the perfect TVA card.
If you're playing the 2 people playing an 8-cube TVA game have had a bad couple last games. Like that's them like, I'm going to make it up right damn here. I've got nothing to lose kind of thing. That's what I feel like. That's
I was there the other day. I had this like, I was so tilted, Cozy. I just completely snapped. And I was against some guy. I thought I had the edge. We went to 8 cubes. They snapped on me. It was a Kang snap.
Oh,
I got so angry. So angry. It was unreasonable, my reaction. Like, I got to tell you, my reaction was notably unreasonable.
I got a couple more for you, good sir. got a couple more. New York.
I hate New York. I'm so sick of New York.
Because they ripped you off there and they know you're Canadian?
Yeah, the hot dogs are terrible. They're the worst sandwich I've ever had.
I knew you were gonna say sandwich. I like it. I like the mind games. Do I always pick the wrong decision? Oh yeah, for sure. But I enjoy the mind games. I think they're fun. But I swear to God, I'm like, oh, they're moving all their big cards, baby. Like I'm gonna either join them or stay put. And no matter what, I move my cards. They only play Shang-Chi. I lose like every time.
New York, I ignore New York. I don't play anything there, and I don't move anything. That's my plan every single time.
And we end with love or hate. Ego.
Hate. Because I snap, and the other person never snaps. I snap, they don't snap back.
That is fair. That is fair. Like, there's clear-cut rules in Marvel Snap that you sign. There's the accept terms, guys. Clearly, nobody read the terms. It snap on ego, and they decided not to care. And it is disgusting behavior not to snap on ego.
I feel bad because I know there's like been studies done that people don't read the agreements they agree to. Like they don't read the EULAs of like apps they install and stuff. And they clearly didn't read the EULA of Marvel Snap, where it states like when there's ego, you have to snap. And they just don't. I snap and then they end up beating me anyway because I don't win on ego. They're like, oh, hey, look, here's Cosmo. We're going to play this down. Oh, you want turn 4 Surfer on Cosmo? Okay, that's where we're going to... Like, that's my ego.
Yeah, there's clear-cut lines that you can read. Like, it's right under Blade will always discard Hella. Like, there's a couple... You just go under there and, like, you'll see the clear-cut stuff in there. There's a lot of it is actually probably what you guys are missing and what you complain about. But it's there. Trust me, read it. I think they got rid of it. Anyway, guys, I want to say thank you for coming by to another episode of the Snapchat. And again, next week, we're going to be doing a mailbag. You can put the comments down below, and you can find the subjects over on Alex's channel that we're about to go talk about. And Alex, again, it's about to be Iron Lad week and then High Evolutionary. We're about to enter some wacky, wild freaking times, man. And I am absolutely thrilled. Our next episode will be on the day that High Evolutionary comes out.
It's going to be incredible. As always, it's an amazing time to be a Marvel Snap player.
As always, guys, appreciate you. Enjoy the rest of your ranking season. And until the next one, happy snapping.